What's up, people? I wanted to do a little bit of an explanation of what I'd like you to do today and then move along some of the content just so that we can stay on a relative pace. Don't worry, though, I'll kind of go through and reconfigure things and kind of figure out how we can get to where we need to be in a timely fashion. So don't worry about that. That's my job. Um, so anyway, here's my September 3rd lesson plan. So today's big topic. Also, I apologize if I'm not as enthusiastic sounding as normal. So the four P's was one thing we're going to work on today, and then I'd like to talk a little about mapping. So there's two big focus questions. The first is, how do geographers apply the concepts of place, power, processes, and possibility to understand the world? And that's what we're going to be doing with the little four P's assignment with your group. And then also we're going to look at how geographers identify and communicate location. Move this out of the way so it's a spot. Also, please make sure you put your phones away in the vault if you have it for the sub. So what we're going to do today is I'll let you do the warm-up because I think it's kind of interesting. It's the epidemic of 1854 that was going on in London. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about mapping and how that works and why we're doing that. And then we'll finish the little 4Ps activity. And my goal really, it's on Teams, but I just want you to have your little poster done and then have your all your information on there. And then next time we'll go around, we'll look at each other's and talk about how it incorporates all the 4Ps. And then we'll do the exit ticket summary. So basically just half the lesson is what we'll be focusing on today. So first thing is, this is my little warm up. So if you want to pause the video with your group and just talk about these two questions a little bit, and then I'll give you a little bit of explanation, that would be awesome. So this is a map of a part of London. And in 1854, a disease in a section of London called Soho, not to be confused with one in New York City, but Soho, was mapped by John Snow, not the John Snow from Game of Thrones, the John Snow, the guy that was an epidemiologist, or one of the original epidemiologists. So symptoms included diarrhea, leg cramps, restlessness, vomiting, and thirst, often led to dehydration and death in a lot of cases in the 1800s. Strangely, though, the disease was contained to this section of London and did not really spread outside of it. So our questions here, our geographic questions are, what can the map of cases and spread of the disease tell us about the disease itself? And then how can we apply scale and or spatial interaction to this situation? I'll just give you one more thing right here. This is a good example of what we call a dot map. So it's got dots for the intensity of different things. And the larger it is, the more cases there were. So you got this section right here, which is kind of the epicenter, and then you got some kind of outlying centers as well. And then these little faucets are where the plumbing, the big water pumps were. And then you've got different streets and things like that. Very rudimentary map of London from the 1850s. So there you go. You can just pause the video if you want to talk about it or think about it. And I'm going to do my explanation of it just a second. Okay, so if you didn't know, or maybe you've heard about this already, this is actually a map of a cholera outbreak. So if you're not familiar with cholera comes from bad water. So the map is telling us a little bit about how the disease is spreading, because what we're seeing is that it is centered on a certain location, which is right here, which is at a water pump, right by a water pump, and then it kind of spreads out there to places that are fed or given their water from this particular pump. The other pumps you don't see a lot of, I guess a little bit here, but you don't see a lot of cases around there. The other thing too is that you see a lot of cases in the same household, but not really extending, outside of that. So each household has like a different level of cases, and it's generally because they're going to be getting their water from the same place, and they don't usually spread it from person to person, although it can spread. It's not, cholera doesn't spread easily from person to person, especially today. It's not airborne, but it can spread through like a lot of connection of bodily fluids, things like that. So this is actually one of the first maps that led to the creation of epidemiology, or the study of disease outbreaks. And it kind of is based off of geography, or looking at what is the commonality of these places, and why is it spread out, again, spatially, the way that it is. Why is it centered here, and as opposed to the fringes? Why do we see clusters within particular neighborhoods? What is the commonality between them? And there it is. So scale, again, is looking at, we're at a very zoomed in section of London. We might also want to look at London as a whole, and that is one thing that they did, is they looked at London overall, and they found that they didn't have outbreaks of this. And what they found was there was a bad pump that had bad water in it, and that was what was causing the outbreak. So just a little bit of geographic history for you to warm you up and get your geographic thinking going. So we're not going to do the creeper carousel today. I'm going to show you actually really quick. So what you need is, if I post this in Teams in the agenda, but I also printed them out, and they have nice, I went the extra mile. They've got color for you if you'd like to have a color handout. I think they're either on my like push around cart thing that I have in my room, or they're on the table at the front of the room. They're yellow. If you'd like one, hopefully the sub can get you one, or you can find them. But today we're just going to go through up to the first page basically, and then we'll stop from there. So I want to just say, this is A, not to insult your intelligence, but B, it's not to make you feel lost either. So our goal is not to become expert cartographers of every single map that we talk about, but we want to get a just basic understanding of what is going on. Also, an archipelago is like a chain of islands. So that's just a little geo joke for you there. Have pity on me, please. Okay, so I'm going to just go through this first section here. And the way that I'm going to teach this all is actually through it's called zombie geography. It's a zombie apocalypse that's occurring, and you have to map it and do some basic map skills to figure out where you're supposed to go. So it's kind of a simulation of mapping. Now, we're not going to do that all today. And I'm not even really going to explain the zombie part of it to you yet. I'm just going to go over the different types of maps. So just so you know, when we do this, you can work with a group or by yourself, and the purpose is to practice some general mapping skills, and then by the end you should have some examples of various types of maps and do some analysis. Mission 1 is to identify where the outbreak is occurring. We're not going to do the mission today. I'm just going to talk about different types of maps and latitude and longitude. So I don't know how much, I know you took, like, if you're with West Data, you took, I think, Western geographic perspectives in like 8th grade. So hopefully you have a little bit of training with this. Again, we're just going to go over some basic mapping techniques and some skills. So really quick, this is the first thing, is there's 2 broad categories of maps. The first type of map, and you can write down the difference if you want to on your note sheet, but I put the examples. This is an Australia, New Zealand political map. A political map is usually a reference map. A reference map is just going to give you, again, like the name says, a reference for where the things are. So here's Australia, here's latitude and longitude, here are the oceans, the physical landforms, here's how it's broken down into different political units. Queensland, Northern Territory, South Australia. Here's New Zealand. They might also zoom in on a section so you can see it a little bit better. Tasmania, so on and so forth. So just completely reference. It gives you a legend. It's capitals and major cities. Also, fun fact, a legend is usually things that are fairly universal symbols, whereas a key is going to give you some things that are specific to the map itself. Anyhow, a thematic map is different. A thematic map does not give you reference to particular locations. It's going to give you some other type of information, thus following a theme. So in this case, we have average or highest max temperature in different parts of Australia, and then we've got it color-coded. It's called a choropleth map. It's a very common type of map that uses color for specific types of data. Yay for Ollie and I, who can't see it as well as all the rest of you. But here's, so that's a thematic map. There's lots of different types of thematic maps. A topographic map is technically a thematic type of map. A dot map, you could have an isopleth or an isoplane map. We'll talk about all those later, but this is kind of a very broad category. A reference map is pretty much going to just look like what it looks like on Google Maps or MapQuest when I was in school. So directionals, GPS, things like that. Thematic map is going to give you a little more information about something else other than where things are. The Mission 1 objectives are actually to identify the cities that are dealing with the infection currently, and then we're going to describe and map the flow of the outbreak, predict where it's going to continue. We'll do that later. So right now, I'm actually just going to talk about the next part, which is some latitude and longitude, do a quick practice, and then that'll be it for me talking to you today from afar. So the second thing is identifying locations using latitude and longitude. probably done this before. And again, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. I just got to make sure everybody's on the same page because we have to be able to do some basic grid mapping and identifying locations based on latitude and longitude. So first off, if you didn't know, latitude measures the distance from the equator at 0 degrees all the way up to the poles on each side. So 0 degrees to 90 degrees. So your Earth is a rough sphere, okay? So when you go all the way up to the top, you're at 90 degrees. When you go all the way back to the bottom, you're 90 degrees. You're not really measuring like what side of the Earth you're on. It's just top to bottom. Anyway, technically, it's actually an angle between the equator and the prime meridian. So, yeah. Anyway, at 45 degrees, you would be about here. Which actually, if you drive to Portland, you will go through on I-84 a section that tells you you're at 45 degrees, which is exactly halfway. So that's right about here, halfway between the equator and North Pole. If anyone just woke up from a nap, you might hear that. So it's measured in degrees, minutes, and seconds, north or south. So 0 to 90 degrees. There's 90 degrees total on either side. Then there's minutes. There's 60 seconds in a minute. There's 60 minutes in a degree. A degree is like an hour. Yeah, that's how it works. Longitude is measured by meridians, which measure the distance around the world, the entire world, away from the prime meridians. The prime meridian goes through Greenwich, the UK. It's an arbitrary thing that the British people decided. It's measured in degrees, minutes, and seconds east and west, but it goes from 0 to 180 because you're going halfway around the world on each side. And if you go all the way down to where you started, you'd be on 360. And it's east and west. I don't know why I wrote that like that. But anyway, it's east and west. So here's an example of how you would, I don't know why I did NA. What am I doing here? I shouldn't say A. I should say S. Sorry. So here's an example of how you would do coordinates. All right. You always do your latitude first and then your longitude. So I didn't go down into minutes and seconds. So Boise is about 43 degrees north. And that's yeah. I don't know what I did here. I just made a giant typo. So anyway, here's lines of longitude. Sorry. Kind of messed that up. Fun thing about longitude is that actually the distance between them changes the farther north or south you go because they kind of go in an arc. So anyway, at the equator, you're at like the widest distance between lines of longitude. Again, just fun facts. So this way is east. This way is west. Is that all I got? Okay, sorry. So I don't know what the heck I was doing with this last bullet, but what you do is you express the latitude first and then the longitude. So Boise is north of the equator. It's like kind of up here. So it's 43 degrees north. It's actually almost halfway between the equator and the pole. And then it's at about 116 degrees west. So it's west of the prime meridian by 116 degrees. So you count from 0 over to 90 to get over the edge, 180 go around, and then you'd start being over back in the east again. So all right, the practice is, can you identify the approximate coordinates based on what I told you? And you can go into minutes and seconds if you want to, or there's 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in a degree. But we want to look for Delta, Colorado, Boulder, Colorado, Pikes Peak, Colorado, and Durango, Colorado. So I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and I'll give you the answers in a second, and then I'm going to have to stop for now. Okay, so Delta, Colorado is right here. If we're just doing the approximate coordinates, it'd be closer to 39, but it's not quite to 39 yet. It's like 38 degrees and 59 minutes north, so 38 degrees north, and that's right on the 108 degrees west. So 38 degrees north, 108 degrees west. I would say probably 38.59, or not 0.59, sorry. You don't do it like that. You can do it like decimals, but it's a different numbering system. So 38 degrees, 59 minutes north, 108 degrees west. Okay, so you do latitude first and then the longitude. Boulder is over here. So Boulder is a little bit different. Boulder is right on the line of latitude. So it's 40 degrees north. And then it's going to be 105 degrees, maybe, 2 minutes west, but 105 degrees west. Pikes Peak is going to be just about almost to 39 degrees north and 105 degrees west. Okay, again, it technically be like, again, almost to the same latitude as Delta, different seconds probably. It's 38 degrees, 59 minutes, maybe 30 seconds west, or sorry, north. My apologies. And it's almost exactly 105 degrees west. And then Durango is number 95. Rob Zombie shout out there. 37 degrees north, 107 degrees west. So you could, if you set 108, like it's okay. Usually what we do though is with the grid, we don't go over. We usually go under, and then you would add in the minutes and the seconds. But hopefully that just gives you practice of doing approximate coordinates. We'll do more with that later if you thought that that was maybe difficult or if I didn't explain it very well because I have brain fog. Anyhow, here's the deal. What I'd like you to do for the rest of class is just make sure you get your little poster done for your event that you had. I have a list of them on a notepad, but just at me and let me know on Teams if you need anything.